There you go. It's in progress. Welcome, Gavin. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Hi, all. So I'm Gavin Ford, as introduced, from the GetUBetter team. I'm here just to, I guess, promote and publicise to yourselves and make you aware of a service which is currently in operation across Bristol, North Somerset, South Gloucester, for people with back pain, neck pain, ankle pain, those sorts of things. And just to sort of fill you in on a trial we've been doing with the Able Care home team to see how this service fits into a residential care environment. So I'll give you a quick just overview of what the service is and how it works, and just give you the findings we had, and just and take any questions. So I'm going to share screen. So right, I'm starting to share screen now. Can I just confirm I'm sharing screen?
Yes, you are. That's working.
Thank you. So let's go from the beginning. Good. So, okay. So we're a team of physios based in Bristol, and about 7 years ago, we set out with an aim to try to create a way for patients to self-manage their back pain, which of course affects a lot of people. And we hoped to do that in order to be able to reduce pressure on physiotherapy services and primary care services. And through technology, what we've been able to do is basically create a way for GPs and physios and social prescribers, and also residential care teams now, to actually give somebody access to a self-management pathway on a smartphone or an iPad or a desktop, for people to follow day by day, week by week, month by month, and go into the service, the app, and basically just sort of see what to do through videos and advice and stuff, and basically how to manage, for the moment, their back and leg, knee, ankle, neck, shoulder. So typically, people who may have a new or recurrent injury, who don't need specialist attention, but have those sort of common sort of ailments just going on and on. And so what we've done is created this app, this sort of platform, we call it. And we've been working very, very closely in BNSSG for the last 12 months now with the care teams, with patients, to bring the service, which is always evolving, actually, if I'm honest, through design and stuff, into something now which is being used by 5,000 people already in the area, and began to really bring quite tangible results and benefits to care providers in the team. So things like less doctor's appointments, less medications, and so on. So the way it really works is that anybody at any point in the healthcare system, so whether you're going into ED, emergency departments, your GP, you're seeing a physio, or you're actually a long-term sort of care position, you can use the app to get a standard approach to wherever you're at in the process throughout your recovery. So you can either be safely netted into the system if you're recovering from an injury, or you're wanting to refer yourself into physios, or you're rehabbing from an injury, or even want to actually work out how to prevent reoccurrence of injury. The actual service now, the actual pathway does that. When it goes to patients, basically, is one place, or Antilis is one place for all those conditions. It's configured locally, so it means there's a lot of local associations to it. So local services, support services, are actually all signposted inside the app. It follows the local care pathway, so that means that it follows what a GP might be doing with a patient, or a physio is doing with a patient, or emergency is doing with a patient. It's personalised for patients. They're able to actually personalise the content inside the app day by day, and also according to how they're getting on with their recovery. So if they're improving the same or worse, they can actually just press a button, and the content they get reflects that. It gives people a personalised recovery plan, lots of videos which are filmed and curated, narrated by ourselves, support services, associated services, and tips to guide. And it's all been written in a way to try to not only just present just technical or recovery information to people, but also help them understand the much bigger elements, the psychological elements to their recovery, and other things to consider, like how they might be going back into work, or how they might manage their time at work, how they might consider about, actually, it's quite hard to go and self-manage, and just tips and guides to that. So we work very closely with the University of West of England to go and try and weave into all the language that sort of advice and motivation for people. So I've referred to all that. So What we did, we were working very closely, say, with the local teams here. So Able Care Homes allowed us to go and work with their teams over the summer. So we went to Belvedere House and Crossley House, where we had two different types of users and patients and stuff. And we did quite a lot of work with the carers themselves here. So what we were trying to work out was how could if you like, independent person, a carer, actually help somebody who's in residential care through using the app. And that's what we're going to try and do. So what went really well for those teams is they were able to almost demedicalize the whole process. And through the tool or through the actual app, they actually had tools to help people with common complaints. It did really provide a focus for those carers as well to actually try and think about how to prevent reoccurrence of those common complaints, and also just a focus on the day sometimes with very mild and gentle exercise regimes. And what that was able to do for the carer team especially was build confidence for them, where they are able to help and engage with residents and not therefore automatically refer to medical support, either on-site or off-site, and actually just between themselves and the residents, just build that relationship to try and work through common complaints. What didn't work, technically, we had to work out how to allow multiple carers to log into a recovery pathway for a resident. So we're going to go and do some development work to enable that. And also something else we found out was the exercise regimes we had in latter recovery. I mean, technically, as you get better, you begin to be able to do more exercise, but more. So we found some of those exercise regimes are a bit too much for perhaps less mobile people. So what we did then was change the whole video regime where people could just choose and pick based on ease of exercise or hardness of exercise to what to go and do. So we built that in already. So what we're going to do next is go and do the technical work. And I guess in theory, therefore, just we're here to sort of let you know this is a service out there anyway. It's out there in the area, and let you know that if you'd like us to include you to the sort of next sort of role, we can come and support your teams and help them understand how to use it and how to use with your residents. Just to give you an idea across BNSSG, this chart here is right now across the 5,000 users. Now the green column is our sort of demographics of people, population in the area. And the grey line is the actual sort of percentage of users we have by age. And you can see our biggest age users are actually in the 50s to 60-year-olds here. It's quite interesting because it's quite different in other parts of the country actually. But that's our biggest number of users here. And we do have a good proportion of our users well past their 60s and 70s as well using the app. So again, the point being, I guess, really, we're looking to try and overcome digital exclusion problems as well here. We're finding actually that people of all different backgrounds and demographics are actually using the app. It all comes down to often just the clinicians and GPs and so on just providing them access to the app. And just some high-level background just for you of how the users like it. So we've done some surveys with users here and so on, and just see what they like, how they've used it, and the positive stuff. All the sort of other stuff, ideas and so on, we're able to take out and take into development areas and help develop the app, make the app more user-friendly and bring new features in. They're the sort of thing we're finding from our users. So people are able to get back to work quicker, feeling a bit more assured, which is our ultimate aim really, to try and give people that confidence to self-manage and know it's safe and know it's okay to go and do. Clinicians, they like it for various reasons as well. Ease of giving it to people, the fact it's got medical device qualifications, which means it's safe, and we do a lot of work to make sure we do everything correctly to keep people clinically safe. And just knowing that actually it's another option. It means that often people who may be on waiting lists or doing nothing or going onto Google or YouTube to get advice are now getting a standardized UK best advice, almost like having a physio in your pocket to tell you how to go and self-manage, particularly whilst you're waiting for care or not quite sure what to go and do. That was a real quick sort of walk through the service, and as I said, David obviously invited us into the forum to let you know it's here really, and let you know that it's a service you can use anyway through your practices and your GPs, and/or if you'd like us to get engaged with yourselves for more formal, I guess, setting you up, just let us know. Any questions?
Thanks, Gavin. I love the idea of a physio in your pocket. That's great. I can't see any questions, but I'm aware that Sam of Able Care is on the call, or she was. I can't see her now. Oh, there she is. Yeah, I'm interested also that in the use of the that you said that the use of it with the age group in this part of the country is different to elsewhere. What's it like elsewhere?
Well, working in Somerset and lots of areas in London, and just generally the demographics are younger. So as you'd expect, really, you expect to sort of, I think, generally see younger people using digital health.
Yes.
But we found 80% of those who are using have never used digital health before, actually. So it's a new idea or concept to them, but are prepared to go and use it. Of course, it works for some, but not for everybody. So we're trying to sort of break down that sort of thing, which says, why would someone not be given it to you go and use? Because most people seem to be quite happy using it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you. I'm conscious that I haven't got your slides. Would you be prepared to have them, and I can pop them up on she says, can pop them on the website. Given that Kath's on the call, I shouldn't really say that because she does that. So thank you.
Team, it's fine.
So that would be great if you could send those over. That would be super, and we'll make sure that they're in our resources area. That would be superb. So
I'll leave my email address there as well. I'll just write in the chat room.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Gavin.
Thanks all. Thanks for your time.
Okay, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the call in case people do come up with questions as time goes on. I know I'm one of those people that thinks of the questions later.
Would it be okay if I do leave?
Yes, as long as we've got your info there. Perfect. Pop me over the slides and then we can get them in the resources.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Gavin. Thanks for
coming.
Thank you. Okay, Kath, I'm going to hand over to you now to take the website. I'm pretty sure I've given you permission, so off you go.
No problem. Thanks a lot. Hopefully there's not too much background noise. I'm in a co-work, so do bear with me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Young. I do the marketing in the background for Care and Support West. So if you get any emails that you're not liking, that's my fault. Feel free to blame me. So I'm really happy to join you to sort of jump on the call. I've been with Care and Support West getting close to a year now. And concentrated a lot of efforts on kind of trying to get the website to a place that's going to be really useful for members and non-members. So just wanted to show you some of the improvements, really. Just point out some of the things that are available to you that might not know about. So I'm gonna jump onto a share screen, hopefully. And if you could just let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, we can see it, Kath. Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. So I'll move you out of the way, and we'll hide this. Hang on a minute. Hide floating panel. So hopefully this won't be too unfamiliar to you. This is obviously the homepage. There's been some improvements to the top level nav, so feel free to kind of have a nosy. But the area that I really wanted to draw attention to is the members area. Now this is password protected for members, and if you're a member you'll know the password, and if you're not, then feel free to get in touch and find out why you should become a member. There's many reasons. Hopefully this will be one of them, but maybe you've been in this, maybe you haven't. Basically we've uploaded a load of content that Care and Support West have access to through a number of our partners, and just content that we've built up over time, really. So I'll do a very quick tour. I'll start with monthly workshops. So this is an example of a workshop. If you're not able to attend, it will now be uploaded to this area here. So you can access the video, the slides, presentations, and hopefully sort of share that with staff as and when it's relevant. So dive in there and have a look. The other area we've spent quite a lot of time on is guides and templates. This is really sort of for practical tools that you can hopefully implement straight away into the business. So for example, under the theme of recruitment, we've got a recruitment strategy template, employee value proposition, top tips for retention. So it's really kind of hopefully saving you some legwork with some of the, some of that sort of paperwork and process that we can help you with. Absent management, digital security, all kinds of different good stuff in there. So do dive in. Policy and procedures, sort of another sort of section. This is kind of your weekly, and if you've been getting the members digest, this is kind of weekly what you really need to know in terms of updates, in the sector, and we try and curate that down so that you can see what you need within sort of 5 minutes. So it's really top level stuff, but on a week by week kind of, here's what you really need to know. So that's all listed in there. Other good, if you've missed a weekly digest, or you want to kind of go back and reread a member's email that you've missed, then you can do that in the weekly digest newsletter. So again, one to point staff to if their email isn't necessarily on it, but you want to sort of point something out. And the last one, which I think is really valuable. So Care and Sport West obviously have a number of third-party providers, partners that we, commercial partners that are either members or work with us. And, we've got a good relationship over a long period of time. They're offering member-only offers. We're working with them to sort of build this up, but, it's really sort of discounts and, sort of, free courses, things that you as a member get access to through us. So we'll be updating that regularly, but just to point to that really. And I think that's it. I mean, there's more coming, and we're hoping to build a forum for members so you can kind of share best practice, share kind of questions, challenges, opportunities. There's a training section here, which we're also sort of building out. This has a number of the services that you might already access, like the Registered Managers Network, Moving Up Pro and things like that. So that's really where you can get sort of training for staff. But again, it's an ongoing process, but just wanted to highlight kind of what's available to you, really. You're paying as a member, and we're here to help. So that's where you can find a lot of the information.
That's great, Kath. Thank you.
I think that's it. Yeah, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but just to say it's really great and reassuring to know that all of the information that we gather all the time here at CSW is there and available for members and other people who land on the website, of course.
Just to say, Angela, I couldn't find my hand, but I can find them here, you understand. I just wanted to add to what Kath's been talking about there and saying that, yes, we are developing more and more pages, one of which, for example, is about the level of, if you like, consultation that's available within Care and Sport West. So there are a range of skills. Angela, you've got some around HR, I've got some around other things. Karen has some around other things, and Mick too. There's going to be a page that's going to talk a little bit about what's available to you, and in particular things, for example, like independent service reviews and those kinds of things. And the website also obviously contains the work that Karen's doing around WDF and better security, better care, and so on. So yeah, lots to find. Have a little route around, as Kath says, and come back to us, particularly if you think to yourself, well, why haven't you got that? Or excuse me, why aren't you doing something around this? Tell us where the gaps are, as well as telling us that you enjoy what we've already got there. Thanks.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Kath. Okay, this is where I'm going to hand over to Sam Hawker. I'm going to suspend the workshop, and we now go into the formalities of the AGM. And that involves me doing a bit of I can't even say screen sharing this morning, but so I'll give it my best shot, Sam, and let you take over.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Right, well, we're going to run through the AGM. Can't believe it's been a year since the last one, with so much that's been going on. If we can get the agenda up, and then we'll work through. So I've got apologies from Mick Alban so far. Does anybody know of any other apologies for me? Perhaps if you do, you can just pop them in the chat, and then I can pick them up from there. So I'm briefly going to run through, and I'm going to hand over most of it to the different people within the organisation to give their reports, and then at the end we'll go through and agree the directors for next year who are going to take things forward for you. So first of all, the minutes from last year's AGM, they would have been sent out a little while ago now, but I think Angie can share them on the screen. So does anybody know of any alterations or corrections, or can we agree those? Most of the detailed information was in the various reports, so the minutes don't go into the detail of it, so hopefully everybody's happy with those. Could I just have somebody to first and second those minutes?
I'm happy to first those, Sam.
Thank you, David.
I'll second them. Thanks, Sam.
Oh, thank you. So I was just trying to see who was speaking there.
It was Angie.
It was Angie. I got you, Angie. Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to hand straight over to David, actually, who's going to go through his Chief Executive's report for us. Copies of all these reports will come out to everybody. Oh, sorry, I'm ringing. Sorry. Yeah, copies will go out to everybody after the meeting, but it's better if we sort of let the speakers go through and give you their version. So thank you, David.
Well, it's always good to be, for some music to present me. That's really nice. Thank you so much.
I'll change my ringtone and get you something else next time.
Yeah, that would be good. Okie dokie. So yeah, welcome everybody. Yes, it's been a crazy year. A year in which all of you in the care sector have been under incredible pressure and have worked not only your socks off, but other bits of your clothing too, I think. It's been a really challenging year, and we want to thank you on behalf of basically the citizens all around the Care and Support West area, which, as you know, covers the old Avon authorities. So thank you for all of that work. And if I can just mention this, I hope either many or some of you at least anyway, saw the Ed Balls program last night. I thought that was really interesting. I thought it pretty much said a lot of the things that we could support and agree with. There was just one thing I didn't agree with, but I'll leave that one to one side. But yes, welcome to the AGM for 2021. I'm just going to summarize my report, and you will, as Sam mentioned, be able to find it on the website. So we've been doing some changes. There's been a revised website. You've just heard about that. And you've just met Kath Young, who's our new marketing partner. And as she says, been with us for a year. Really great to be working with her. And we've had, over the last year, a couple of new board members as well. One from domiciliary care and the other from live-in care. So it's really great to welcome them as well. So that's great, Janet and Lucy. So over the course of the year, we've continued to get various new members from either regulated or non-regulated care. And the thing I just wanted to underline in terms of membership, we've developed something we've called a public body associate membership. That is to say, we've been talking to all 4 of the local authorities we cover. And I'm happy to report that all 4 of them are now joined and have joined Care and Support West as a public body associate member. And like other membership roles, they invest funds in order to do that, and they've been able to do that. So this is the first year during which all of them have been engaged and involved, and we hope that that will continue on, and be working much more closely, I guess, with them, and working closely in relation to all the challenges that are around, both in terms of staffing, but also placements and so on. Local authorities are under a good, and Ed did mention this yesterday, last night on the program. Local authorities are under a great deal of pressure too, not in the same way that you as carers are, but it's linked, and so it's good to have them on board. We've got 4 new commercial partners, I'm happy to mention. Kath made reference to that, the page around them. Pill Time, which is a pharmaceutical firm, they've just recently joined. Cohesion, which is a recruitment agency, they've just joined. Workplace IT, and as the name indicates, that's on the tech side. And NOMA, N-O-M-A, which is an architects firm, all local, pretty much all of them local to Bristol. So that's grand. And they were joining 13 already with us, partners to be working with us. So that's great. I did make mention of the consultation page that's coming up on the website, just to remind people about that. And you will have all been in receipt of the new on the horizon communication system that we've developed. It's been around for a little while, but Kath's helped us do the bits around that make it much more accessible and so on. So that's really great. Members get that weekly and non-members get that bi-weekly. So that's great. We've got external relationships, particularly with the Care Association Alliance. And now just to let you know about that, Care and Support West isn't on its own. There are many, many care associations across England. And the Care Association Alliance consists of associations pretty much from Cornwall to the top of England. And we're part of that grouping. And they hold weekly meetings, and Angela has been going to those meetings, generally speaking, up until now anyway. And so all of that's great. It's good to hear that some of the things, some of the wrestling that you and we are doing is being equally done elsewhere. So that's great to be part of that. We've talked about the website and the independent service reviews. I wanted to make reference to another piece that we're working on, which is a collaborative staff pack. All of you, excuse me, all of you are being challenged by staff gaps and finding that people are having to do extra shifts and all of that kind of thing. So we're trying to do some work with a group of people around creating some kind of, as it were, mutual aid type organization that can help with those staff gaps. The awards Angela made mention of, they were great this year. We had about, I don't know, 350 odd people there or something. Well, not, they weren't odd, you understand. 350 people or so at the event. And yes, we're making mention of the nominations for next year at this meeting, but there'll be a, if you like, a harder launch probably in January. So we're thinking about that. So do look on the website. You can already actually book tables. There's a super early bird cost table. So you could be booking that this very day if you chose to do that. That'd be great. The next conference that we've got, there are a set of conferences coming up. We're holding a symposium on the February 2nd, and that's jointly with our health colleagues at the Training Hub. And that's going to be focused on integrated care systems and integrated care partnerships. Two things that you will all know, you'll have heard about, but these are going to be making a significant difference to the way in which care is commissioned and not managed, but commissioned. So I encourage you to be joining that. And again, that'll be being marketed on the comms and so on. And then we have got the annual conference coming up in June the 8th. We haven't quite worked out the detail of that yet, but it's there. And Angela made reference to workshops. These days, we've been doing pretty much monthly workshops, really. And many of you will have joined those, and many of you will have benefited from those. Registered managed networks, 3 or 4 for each local authority across the year on 3 or 4 occasions. Mick runs those, as you know, Mick Alban. I've mentioned Kieran earlier about the Workforce Development Fund. She's been working on that's been extended for us into I think it's year 4 maybe. So we're doing a 4th year of that. Kieran's nodding, so I got that figure right. And also the Better Security, Better Care, which lasts, I think, until March at the moment. So we're helping people think about digital, their digital systems within their own care homes and how that can support them and increase the way in which they're able, via that model, to be able to link with acute hospitals and GP practices and get better and if you like, secure information exchange between you so that you don't have that crazy problem that's been around over the last number of years, whereby, you know, you send a set of notes to the hospital and they don't come back, or you don't get information back from the hospital when somebody comes back to your care setting. All of those things are happening. Much growth in the social media arena, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on, which is majorly down to Kath. Kath, thank you very much. We're trying to have that conversation with other people. And lastly, for me, some thanks. Angela, in her role as Deputy CEO, thank you so much for what you've been doing over the last year. That's been great. Karen, for what I've just mentioned around WDF and so on. Mick continues with us. As always, around the Registered Management Network, Kath, I've made mention of. Dan, for his support. We have an SMT that meets on a regular basis, and Dan's part of that senior management team. And it's really great to be working in close partnership with him. Sam does a whole pile of stuff. Yes, she's the company secretary, but at board meetings, she's taking notes and stuff. And so thank you, Sam. It's really great that you're able to do those things. And then lastly, Windmill Care, Laura Campbell is our, I don't know what you call it really, finance manager, finance oppo. She's doing that stuff with us on behalf of Care and Support West. So those are the things I wanted to say. I'm going to finish there. You'll see the full report on the website. That's me done, Sam.
Thank you very much, David. A very comprehensive run through there of the loads of good things that have been happening this year. I'm going to pass over now to Deanne, who's our chair. He's going to deliver his report and tell us a little bit about the finances, I believe, as well.
Morning all. Yeah, just like David, basically, I'm going to do a quick summary of my report because you can read it on the website if you wish. But and I'll try not to repeat too much of what David's already covered because he's covered quite a bit of probably what I was going to say as well. So yeah, it's been another tough year for everybody. So I just hope that Care and Support West has been able to support members through this difficult period, and I'm sure we've got some more difficult times ahead. I think it's I do want to thank a huge thank you to all the board members who have also had difficult times, I'm sure, in their own businesses and work streams as well. So the contribution they made to Care and Support West as part of the board has been extremely well received, and I just want to quick thank you on that. Like David said, it's been great to have 2 additional members to the board this year to enhance the breadth and knowledge on the board with living care and domiciliary care. So great to welcome those on board. It's been another good year in terms of having additional commercial partners on board, like David mentioned, and I won't repeat them again. But I think from our point of view, I think having more commercial partners coming to Care and Support West and wanting to be part of Care and Support West and wanting to offer more things to members is a sign of how influential Care and Support West is becoming in the area and in the sector as general. And you know, from our point of view, it's great to be able to provide such high caliber businesses to our members with various discounted rates, etc., or just generally providing further advice and knowledge. I also want to take a massive thank you to the SMT. As David said, I do play a very, very small part in the SMT. All the legwork is done by the people I'm about to mention. So I tend to just join in each month on different calls, etc., and try and provide some support. But the credit should all most certainly go to the main members of the SMT. So David, I want to thank you for being an incredible CEO, been with us many years now, and I think Care and Support West wouldn't be where it was without you. So huge thank you for you. Angela, you've performed remarkably well in the Deputy CEO, and again, the way we've grown, I think, in the last few years is again a huge part to you joining us a few years ago, and what you contributed and continue to contribute is very much special. Sam, I want to thank you as being Deputy CEO, Deputy Chair, Company Secretary, and all the other bits that you do, Sam. Again, over the years, you've played a huge part in Care and Support West, and again, the association wouldn't be where it was without you. So thank you. Kieran, you've done some incredible work around the DWF's things. You've also played a huge role in in pretty much everything. I think the good thing with the SMT is everybody does play a part and a bit of everything, but you also have your specialisms. Mick, who can't be with us today, has done a great job again with the registered managers networks and other things. And I also want to pay a huge thank you to Kath. We have had, I'm going to come to a bit more in a bit, but you've played a huge part in sort of the marketing, the website, etc. And I think when you said you've been with us a year, it's been really quick. The year has flown by, most certainly, but I think the amount of work you've done in that year with us, I'm conscious you've had support, obviously, from the rest of SMT as well, but it's been really, really good. And I think there's much more to come as well, based on what you said earlier. So that's really exciting. And I also want to pay tribute to Laura, who's been, and Windmill Care, for continuing to support us from a financial management point of view. I want to touch quickly on the conference and the awards. I think the first attempt at the virtual conference was a huge success, and I think, again, massive thank you to the SMT for adapting so much. And I think it was a really, really good conference, and it was much better than a lot of virtual conferences I've been on. And given that, you know, it was our first attempt, I thought that was very, very, very good. And you know, David's already touched on the ICS and ICP workshop or conference that we've got in February, which again will be a huge importance. And then I'm pretty sure we'll get another annual conference in June as well. So some good work around the conferences. And then the awards, it's brilliant to see most of you at the awards again. It was really, really nice to see so many people. I think, like David said, we had over 350 in the end, which, you know, given the year that people have had and the things we've gone through, and it was so nice to see people face to face rather than sort of on Zoom meetings. So a huge thank you again to the SMT, and the amount of work that I won't mention everybody, but the amount of work that sort of David, Angela and Kieran have put in, and Pauline as well, on the day especially. I think we do need to look a bit more about the support that's provided to the SMT sort of in the run-up and also on the day, but it's incredible what came out of it. So a huge thank you on that. I'm looking forward again, and hopefully we'll be in a better position again next year to have an even better awards. I just want to finish off really with, it's my third AGM as chair, and I think when I first started, we had a couple of clear goals that I set out in terms of having a written strategy. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on where we're at in the progress we've made. And I think given the 3 years we've had, or certainly the last 2 years, I think Gainsborough West has really made huge strides in its development and what it offers the members and the way it runs. So a couple of things I want to touch on, and I won't go on too much because David and Kath have already covered it a little bit. But in terms of social media presence, I think Kath and SMT does such great work on this, and I think we are seeing a lot more presence on social media. We are getting more information to our members and in a better format than we ever have. So that's really encouraging, and I think the work done to the website is really, really impressive. And I know we've got a bit of work to go on that, but I'm hoping that members would really, really appreciate the work that's gone on there. Financial stability. So Gainsborough West is not a profit-making organisation. However, it does need to make some sort of surplus to be able to reinvest each year. And we have made strides on that. We've still got some work to go on that, but it's been really, really good for the last few years that we haven't had to worry too much about sort of breaking even. I think the draft accounts this year will show, well, I know the draft accounts this year will show a small surplus of £1,254.81, and the forecast for March ending 22 will be showing an upward trajectory, mainly thanks to the additional projects that we've done and the additional members and corporate partners we've gained in the last year and continue to gain, hopefully, throughout the rest of this year. And I just want to touch again on thanking Laura at Windmill Care for their work, and also Milster Langdon, who were our new commercial partners last year and continue to be a key commercial partner, and obviously our appointed accountants as well. And finally, then, just in terms of representation, I think again, Gainsborough West continues to be part of the Care Association Alliance, like David mentioned. And I think we are having more conversations and playing a greater role, certainly in the local area with the ICSs and ICPs now. And our partnership with the local authorities, that's something new in the last year, and I think that's really, really positive. The local authorities are more engaged with providers now, I think, and we are having a closer relationship, albeit a challenging one at the same time. So that's been really, really positive. So I just want to finally thank everybody for being part of Cairnsport West, particularly the members, the SMT, and obviously the board. Yeah, I look forward to another year next year.
Thank you very much, Deanne. Very good comprehensive report there, and great news about the finances as well. It's always good to hear. I'm going to pass back to David now, because he's going to deliver Mick's Development Director report and tell us about the work that Mick's been doing over this last year.
Thanks, Sam. I'm conscious of the time, so all I'm going to do is mention what the registered managers networks are going to focus on for the remainder of this financial year. So because there've been meetings in June, July, September and October already. And so I just wanted to let people, or remind people, or let people know that the November meeting will be on risk assessment and business continuity planning. How much more valid could that be than right now? So do make sure that you link in to that. And then the next one will be in January, and that's around value-based recruitment, developing your retention strategy. Again, how much more valid could that be? These are subjects that just challenge us all, or you all, every day of the week. So 2 good sessions there from Mick. And then in February, governance, quality assurance and service improvement. A more generic, I guess, subject matter, but nevertheless really central to how you run your businesses. And then in March, the new work around liberty protection safeguards. So those are the 4 sessions that are still to run for the registered managers networks. And just to finally add, there are something like about 130 or so participants across the 4 local authorities. So thank you, Mick, for that. And please do link in and make sure you get to be part of those sessions.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, some really good figures with the number of members of those networks, and some really good topics going forward. So we'll look forward to those. Our final part of the AGM is to agree the directors for next year going forward. So I'm really pleased to say that everybody who has been acting this year and who's put themselves forward and become directors this year are happy to keep going and keep doing that into the coming year. We do have a number of directors who, according to our constitution, have to stand down every 2nd year and then put themselves for re-election if they're prepared to continue. So I'll go through who we've got on that list for this year, and then we just need somebody to 1st and 2nd that you're all happy to have those people re-elected for the board for the forthcoming year. So I hope you agree, because some of these people, all of these people we really need to keep in this group. So we've got David Smallacombe, Angela Roberts, myself, Sam Nataro, Kath Twine and Rizwan Kavinji. So those are the directors who need to stand down this year. Great news that they're all happy to stand for re-election. So can I have 1st and a 2nd to agree those?
I can first that, Sam.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'll happily second it, Sam.
Lovely, thank you. Oh, David, I don't know if you can first yourself. I think perhaps we might need somebody different.
Okay, yeah, somebody else then, please.
I'll put Deanna's first, if that's okay. Can I have somebody to second?
I'm happy to.
I'll second. I'll second, Sam.
Oh, okay, thank you, Paul. Lovely. There we are. David put himself forward, but although we're all very pleased. Although we're all very pleased with that, we better stick to the rules. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for your interesting reports. That concludes our AGM part of the workshop, so I'll hand back to Angie to get on to our next subject.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Kathy, sorry we're a bit delayed. It's my bad planning on the timing of the programme, I'm afraid. Okay, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you.
I'll see.
Thanks, Angela.
You
Please
should
don't
be
worry
able to
about
share
the timing
screen.
of the school. I'm quite used to working flexibly with timings, and we all are, aren't
Okay.
we? Thanks very much for the warm welcome and the invitation, Angela, to come and speak with you all today. My name's Kathy. I'm actually an HR consultant by background, but about 3 years ago, in fact, it's 3 years next month, I stopped commuting from the Isle of Wight across Hampshire, Wiltshire, Surrey, Sussex, etc., to walk the talk for a change and take care of my own health and well-being. And my specialist area has always been well-being and mental health, musculo-skeletal health, absenteeism, presenteeism, all of those sorts of nuggets, working for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, predominantly in public sector, not-for-profit and charitable sector, social housing, care, nursing, care and supporting independence, and so on. So I do have some direct experience of working in those environments as a level 5 safeguarding lead, supporting some of the tensions and pressures and challenges that, you know, have been around since the land that time forgot, really, in the care sector, and have really been accentuated with some of the pressures that we've seen during COVID, compounded by Brexit. That having been said, I do still work with clients on a day-to-day basis, providing support for operational matters and strategic matters in care and support, but I'm by no means an expert. Now, my background, as I say, is HR. But as soon as I started working for myself, and I'm pursuing another business as well, which is a hobby enterprise that kind of grew arms and legs, I wanted to undertake the Mental Health First Aid England instructor training, because my background is predominantly in training and facilitation, something I really, really enjoy and find hugely fulfilling. So that was something I committed to very early on when I started working for myself. Now, today in this workshop, I'm just going to share my screen now. Please let me know when you can all see it. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, we can.
Thumbs up, brilliant, thank you. Today's workshop is really just a light touch to have a look at what well-being means. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to one another? And I'd invite you to take some time to reflect in this short session on you. And that is not you as a decision maker, as a people manager, as a leader, all of the other hats that you may wear and all of the other responsibilities that you may have at work or outside of work, perhaps in your community or at home. So that's my invitation to you in this session, is that as I'm exploring pressure, well-being, wellness, and what that means, and the themes that are likely to be triggered as I go through that with you, take some time today to just think about yourself. So there we go. So what is well-being? What is wellness? What's the difference between the two? There's so much buzz, isn't there, about the health of people, the health of our planet. Everyone's talking about both. Is it an interest as a fad? Is it a hot topic that's going to fade? Is it all about fantastical yoga positions? Is it about deep meditation? And is it about sipping superfood smoothies? Are we all on the brink of social change, perhaps? It's shaping how we prioritize, how we choose to live our lives, and what's important and what it means to be happy. What ideas do you have about how you want your home life to be now and in the future? How you relax, how you spend time with friends and family, how you exercise, the hobbies that you enjoy, and how you generally take care of yourself. So let's have a think about pressure. So we all experience pressure, and some pressure is good for us. It gives us a buzz, it helps us make decisions. Sometimes when the alarm clock doesn't go off at the right time, or the dog's sick on our shoes just before we're about to leave the house, you know, there's pressure that we experience, and we prioritize, we problem solve, and we move through it and we find a way forward. But the different kinds of pressure that we all experience on a day-to-day basis can, over a protracted period of time, have an impact on our overall resilience. By resilience, I mean our bounce back ability. So from a very early age, we all had to manage pressure and learn how to do that. And sometimes we did it really well and effectively, and other days, perhaps faced with very similar situations, we didn't cope quite so well, and maybe we had to reach out and have some guidance and support. And that may still be the case today. It certainly is for me. So you may be familiar already with the FFFF response. I'm just going to summarize that quickly now for you. So that's fight, flight, freeze, and less commonly known, fawn. So this is when the body instinctively has a response in the limbic system where your brain takes responsibility for your memory, your emotions, and your survival, and it acts immediately, instinctively, to protect you. You jump into an action to protect and safeguard yourself. So fight is where we are feeling threatened, there is a fear state, and we stand up and we assert ourselves. Flight, it's better to run away, isn't it? After all, if we can escape that threat and avoid the conflict, then we won't come to any harm. So that can look like running away or avoiding certain interactions and situations. Freeze. A freeze response actually helps us slow down and appraise a situation carefully before we determine what the next steps are. It can also mean neurological shutdown, however. I liken this response to our animal friends who can play dead in the presence of a predator. And when we freeze, it might look like we're perhaps lost for words or retreating into our minds, but actually we may be going emotionally or physically numb. So freeze really is a number of different things, and sometimes we may find ourselves in that freeze position. Now, fawn is not a more well-known instinctive response. Now, a fawn response is people-pleasing. Okay, so that's engaging in pacifying behaviours to the degree where you actually forget yourself entirely. Your thoughts, emotions, body sensations, those are all absolutely secondary or tertiary. They are left well behind. You put another person first. So, a snazzy little graph here. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but let's just consider whatever's too much or about right for each of us, it really, really does vary. Too little pressure can be just as stressful as too much stress or pressure. So that depends on a number of factors unique to each of us. I'm sure you're starting to think about the sorts of helpful pressures and unhelpful pressures that you experience as a person. As I say, taking time to reflect on all of the different hats that you wear, not just your professional hats today. So I'm going to talk with you now, and we will shortly do a short exercise, which is voluntary. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. For those of you who'd like to, you'll need a piece of paper and a pen. So the stress container is an analogy. It's a tool that can help us reflect on how we're coping with stress, which impacts our well-being, our physiological well-being and our mental health. Now, we all have mental health, and our mental health fluctuates from time to time with life events, just as our physical health does too. And we all need some pressure to start working. So at any one time, there's a variety of demands that are flowing into our stress container, and that affects the stress and pressure that we experience. So have a think now about what sorts of life events have been affecting the pressure that you have been and are currently feeling. This is rhetorical. There's no need for you to list anything in the chat or what have you. So just take some time to reflect on the sorts of life events and experiences that you are having right now or are coming up that are affecting the stress that you experience. I'd also invite you to consider the sorts of pressure that is helpful pressure for you. What sorts of situations do you experience that are pressured, but where it brings out the best in you? Okay, and think about the sorts of pressure that is unhelpful for you, when actually that has an adverse effect, perhaps on you physically, as well as in your mental health as well. So if you look at that stress container, you've got all sorts of pressures from all different directions flowing into that container. And as I'm sure you will have spotted in the illustration, there's a valve, there's a tap. So at any one time, we can control that valve and the flow with which the pressure and stress is actually dissipating, okay? So that flow could be really fast because we're quite good at managing our pressure, or actually at times, the amount of stress coming into our stress container is so much, it's coming from every direction, and perhaps the sorts of things that are usually helpful in alleviating our pressure, our opportunity for that can slow down. And so that stress container becomes more and more and more full. So what you'd normally go to cope with on one day, what worked for you yesterday may not work for you today. And what helps you cope may not help your friend, your colleague, or your relative cope either. So from time to time, we will all have perhaps unhelpful coping mechanisms as well that can affect that valve, that tap. For example, avoidance, procrastination, overworking, long hours, poor prioritizing, taking less breaks, not making any time for lunch, perhaps poor nutrition, less exercise, less fun and social time. When do you have the chance for that? Bottling up your thoughts and your feelings, so not sharing it and talking it through. Perhaps increased alcohol consumption. All of these things can affect our ability to rest, relax, unwind, and replenish our batteries, and of course affect our sleep as well. I'm sure some of those examples will resonate with you, and I'm sure you can all think of more that you know aren't helpful for you too. So when this happens, the pressure keeps on coming in and the flow of the valve slows down and becomes clogged and may actually stop altogether. So the water becomes very, very turbulent and can eventually spill over. That's when you become really stressed, and it's negative stress. You're less resilient and you're far more vulnerable. And that's also known as a stress signature, also known as emotional snapping. It could be your signature is that you withdraw, you become quiet, or it could be quite the opposite. You know that you're snappy and easily irritated. My stress signature is to be snappy and easily irritated. I recognize that in myself. So it's more likely that that emotional snapping will happen when there's too many competing demands, or when pressures are seemingly outside of your control and influence. When this is sustained over a continuous period of time, this is what leads to symptoms of burnout that many of us may have observed in others, or may have experienced ourselves in the past, or perhaps right now. And that results in poor mental and physical health, high absenteeism, low morale, high staff turnover, all affecting productivity. But outside of work, of course, that affects our fun, our sense of enjoyment, our happiness. It can adversely affect our relationships too. Okay. Let me just move on to the next slide. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so what is just right? How do we find that utopian balance? How do we get things just right, where it's only natural that there are pressures and stresses in life that are coming into our stress container? That's life, and particularly 21st century life. Sometimes our ability to control that valve is really good and it's strong. We feel comfortable that we can manage our pressures and stresses really well, and we can therefore have an optimal state where The pressure is helpful and it's just right. So according to a Gallup survey in 2020, 80% of people feel burnt out at the moment, compounded by all the turbulence that COVID has brought along. 90% of employees have said that coronavirus has adversely impacted their mental health. So Oracle have also recently reported that 76% of employees believe their employer should be doing more to address mental health. Well, how do we do that? Where do we start? It's a hugely complex beast, isn't it? And what I'd invite you to do, as I did at the beginning of this session, is to think about your own health and well-being and your self-care first, because none of us can pour from an empty cup. And when we have a lot of responsibilities and accountability to our staff, to our family members, to our communities, to our clients, to the agencies we work with, it's very easy to see how those who have managerial and leadership responsibilities can actually be more vulnerable at times than others. So looking after yourself and taking time to reflect on your own resilience and how you take care of yourself is, I would suggest, a high priority. So we're going to take about 5 minutes now. I'm just going to check my phone for the time. Yep, we've still got plenty of time. So I did mention earlier on that we'll be doing a short exercise. Now, often we don't get time, or we don't make time to carry out short activities like this. You know, usually people sort of provide the information and, you know, you park it and you have a look at it maybe at the weekend or one evening when it suddenly pops into your inbox again. So I'm going to give you that time now. It is optional. It's not about sharing it with other people at all. This is simply for you on a bit of paper with a pen if you have one to hand. Only participate if it's something you want to do. But my gift to you in this session is, if you'd like that time to think, to take a step back and take a helicopter view of your own health and well-being and how you're coping well or less well, now is the opportunity. So I'm going to give you about 5 or 6 minutes to reflect on this activity. So don't worry, we're not doing yoga or meditation. We're simply going to look at that stress container that I've just talked through with you. So if you draw that stress container on a piece of paper, whether it's a funnel, whether it's a bucket with a little tap coming off the side. So what I want you to do is just take 4 or 5 minutes to write down in succinct words, or maybe even pictures, whatever works for you, all of the things that are concerning you at the moment. This could include things like additional responsibilities at work. It could be a new client with unrealistic expectations. It could be a family illness. It could be bereavement, financial worries, concerns about diet, exercise, sleep, social time, a breakdown of an important relationship, aging parents, uncertainty about returning to work. Okay, that's just a few ideas as to what may be typical stresses and concerns. So I'm going to put myself on mute and I'm going to give you 5 minutes now to carry out that activity. If you'd like to participate, this is the time to do it. I will give you a 30-second warning when we're just winding up that 5 minutes to bring everyone back to the room. Okay, so off you go. 5 minutes, it's all yours. Okay, you've all got about 1 minute left. So if you want to start wrapping up all of the things that you're putting into your stress container. I can see lots of people still looking down, thinking, deep in thought, writing, perhaps drawing. It's a really helpful activity to do, to take time to do this. Okay, so it's time to just finish up now and come back to the session. Okay, everyone? Okay, I'll continue now. So I hope you found that helpful. Equally, I do understand that that may also be quite triggering and quite difficult to take time to examine what's concerning you and where your sources of pressure and stress are coming from at the moment, and trying to understand perhaps what you do with that now. Where do you go next with that now that you've clearly identified it? I've just clicked onto what looks like a different slide, and it is. On the left-hand side there, you can see a number of helpful coping strategies. I mentioned some earlier. And on the right-hand side, some of the unhelpful coping mechanisms that can lead to overwhelm. Now, these things directly impact that flow and control that you experience of that valve in your stress container. So having done that activity and identified all of the things that are flowing in, it's worthwhile having a quick look at your helpful coping strategies and your unhelpful coping strategies. And only you know what is working for you and what's not helping you at the moment, and perhaps what you need to take time and make a commitment to address to achieve that overall balance. Because it's often when you lose a sense of control that the overwhelm really creeps in as well. So a few rhetorical questions from me before I close up. Do you have any evidence to support your thoughts and feelings about the stresses in your container? What can you change or influence? What can't you change and you need to accept? What needs your urgent attention? Can anyone help you? And what's stopping you from asking for their help? And as mentioned, what are your helpful coping mechanisms that you need to start doing more of and building time in for? And what are your current unhealthy coping mechanisms that you need to start to shift? Okay, I've just skipped a slide there, but that's fine. I will be passing my slides on to Angela. I'm just going to finish up now. So today we completed an activity that was about who we are as a human being first, not of all of the other hats and roles that I mentioned earlier, just as you. And I hope you value taking the time to just stop and think about well-being, generally speaking, and in particular, your own. You can use this activity at any time to explore what the different stresses are and your helpful and unhelpful coping mechanisms, considering all of those different roles. So you can actually do it at work and with your teams as well. It's a free online interactive tool available through the Mental Health First Aid England's website, alongside heaps of other really simple and useful resources for individuals and for employers. It's relevant and it's simple to use, which I think is really key to making step changes and progress in the overall balance of health and well-being. Giving yourself permission to examine your well-being, it's okay to do that. In fact, it's healthy. If you're avoiding it and finding that you're thinking, I'm too busy to take care of myself, perhaps that's a symptom that you may not be coping very well at all, and that maybe you do need to reach out for help from those around you, your colleagues, friends and family, and maybe a professional to guide you as well. It can be uncomfortable, it can be painful to take a closer look. Taking small steps each day to find a better balance is still a healthy way of taking care of yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day. And here we are now in November with winter pressures ahead and an ongoing sector-wide staffing crisis. As I mentioned earlier, none of us can pour from an empty cup. So when you regularly practice self-care, you will become more self-aware, reduce your vulnerability, and strengthen your resilience. So just as it takes time for our resilience to ebb, it also takes time to rebuild. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today. If any of you would like to reach out to me to arrange a one-to-one and find out more about one another and how I might be able to support you, Angela has my details. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And I'm coming back to speak with you all in April again. So if there are any specific topics that are relevant to you all that you'd like covered, please do discuss those together and pass those on to Angela so I can make it really relevant and worthwhile for you. Thank you very much.
Kathy, thank you so much for that. There's a round of applause from David there. And Paul, you obviously hit the spot. I'm particularly appreciative of you mentioning that this is work that it's good for us to do with ourselves, for ourselves, but also that can be done with the team. My experience of working with care managers is that they rarely have enough time to support themselves, and so this is a very timely reminder that not only is this a good idea for you, it's a good idea for those you support as well as your team. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm going to stop the recording.